A lot of photographers don't really respect models because they don't really see us as people with ideas and feelings and thoughts. We are just dolls that they can play with and tell what to do in front of their camera.
Welcome to Get the Picture, a podcast where photographers can learn all things photography so that you can get the picture. I know that's kind of a cheesy line, but I'm going to go with it for now.
I love puns. I don't care.
All right. We love puns. We'll do as many as we can today. I'm the host of Get the Picture, Brad Sigal, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, which actually isn't with a photographer, even though this is a photography podcast. It's with a model. Because unless you're doing landscape photography or astrophotography and you're out in the mountains by yourself in the middle of the night, you're going to be working with people as a photographer. And some of the main people you'll be working with is models. So I thought it would be very useful in a photography podcast to hear from a model's perspective about their experiences working with photographers, getting into the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've had the good fortune to work with and get to know today's guest for the last several years, and I'm really honored that you were willing to talk about issues between photographers and models today with us on Get the Picture. So welcome to the podcast, Roxy Vail.
Hi, thanks for having me. I was happy that you asked me to do it because we've worked together for so long. I've always just been like, "Hey, let's shoot this thing. Let's shoot this thing for Hot Topic. Let's shoot this thing." And you're just like, "Okay." It's about time I did you a solid. You've done me like 1,000.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So why don't we just start learning a little bit more about you? Who is Roxy Vail and what's your history with modeling?
Okay, well, Roxy Vail is me. I am a model and I own a clothing brand with my twin sibling London called Camp Buzzkill, and I don't even know what to say.
Well, we'll get into more as we get into more questions, I guess. So you put a ton of work into building your modeling career over the last, I don't know, I think decade or so, right? And
Yeah, it's been a
do,
while. Been a while since maybe 2013, 2014 or something, at least professionally. But my twin London and I had been taking photos of each other since high school. And we would be taking our little photo shoots so seriously, but it was serious to us, and it also helped me get comfortable in front of the camera now because I had someone early, and obviously being a twin, it just makes it a lot easier. So we were just on the same wavelength. We wanted to crank out content even if it was trash, but we believed in it. Start from somewhere.
back then, what were you using, like a point and shoot camera, or did you have how were
Yeah.
you doing content back then?
Yeah, pretty much like that, or a little tiny digital camera, or yeah, most earlier it was like on a tiny little digital camera, or we were taking photos of like on a disposable camera, but then like having them uploaded, and it would look so grainy. But then, yeah,
That look's coming back in now. People love that look of, like, the old
yeah,
point and shoot cameras, or
yeah, we were
grainy
serious.
film.
After school, we would be like in the alley outside, just taking pictures in front of our little grungy wall and the fence, just being like, God, my angst.
So doing modeling for over a decade, like that's what, at least 13 years now, that takes a lot of work behind the scenes and maybe work that photographers or other people don't even realize. Like, can you talk about some of what goes into being a model behind the scenes?
hmm Yeah, a lot of good work goes into not even just the photo shoots itself. It's just about just being a model in general, because before modeling, you have to cultivate a fan base already, which is, not the same as models before who had agencies to back them. So now it's almost like you have to come into things with an already existing fan base and or a following or whatever. And for a while, I didn't do anything but post my pictures, and I generated followers just from that. And I didn't even do anything really professionally until a little bit later on, because I was posting online and posting my outfits since maybe 11. So it takes a lot, like, even that, because a photographer, a lot of the times they connect with models because they like their following and all of that, and it takes a lot to even get that, to even get the collaborations a lot of the times, because nowadays you have to have numbers in order for people to even want to work with you a lot of the times. So a lot goes into even doing that before we can even get to the photo shoot. So it's just, yeah, it's people don't think about the little parts that go into what it takes to maintain a platform or to make it at all beneficial to the people that we collaborate with. Because a lot of times they do think we just get ready and then show up and just take our little pictures and go. And it's just like, no. At least if I want it to be beneficial to the photographers and people that I collaborate with, I do want to have an engaging following, and that has to see their work and engage with it and look at it. So that means I have to do things that just constantly keep it coming, cranking out the content, posting consistently, hardly ever taking any breaks, and just kind of, it's a lot. And if you're not posting professional photos, you have to post your own photos that your friends take, or if you're not posting photos, you have to post to your story or it's a lot. It's a lot. On top of, obviously, a 9 to 5 or whatever you do to grind to pay your bills on top of that, because modeling is not right, at least not for us, it doesn't pay the bills. We have to have a day job.
Yeah, so in order to have that regular social media content, how much of that do you do from shoots with photographers versus shooting stuff yourself?
Um, I think earlier on, I was doing a lot of shooting it myself because I wanted to have a lot more content, but as of, like, the more recent years, I it's mostly when I work with photographers, because now when I'm hanging out with people and people that I care about, I don't care about taking pictures because I'm always just like, "Whatever, I'm sure I've got a shoot coming up anyway, so I'll get my photo taken there, I wanna live in the moment." But, so I think a lot of it is, with photographers, but then there are times when Dwella or somebody that I know, um, takes photos for me for my professional stuff too. So, but it is mainly photographers, yeah.
So do you mostly work with the same photographers over and over again, or do you work with new photographers a lot?
I prefer to work with the ones that I trust. I used to be a lot more open-minded, but I learned my lesson not to do that. So, I've worked with the few people that I feel safe with, and I've kind of been venturing with a couple of new photographers this year, but that's maybe 2. I and even then, it took a while to warm up to the idea of shooting with a new person, because once you deal with what models deal with after so long, you just wanna shoot with people that have the best intentions.
So when you're deciding whether to work with a new photographer or not, how do you decide? Like, what are red flags or what are green flags that go into your calculation for whether or not you want to work with a photographer?
Well, I do see who follows them. If anybody I know, especially who models, then I can ask them if they know if how they were with the photographer or something. And then once I get that, then I look at their work and see what type of work, um, if I really like their style of photography. And then I check to see if they shoot any models of color or with darker skin, because sometimes if they don't, then if we take photos, they're gonna look like garbage and then I won't be able to use them anyway. So I check that too. Yeah. Um, those are the main things. I see what other models say and then I check their work.
So I definitely want to go a little bit deeper on both of those issues that you raised. But
Mhm.
first, just had one other question. How would you recommend that photographers, especially newer photographers who may not have much of a portfolio yet, reach out to models they're interested in working with? You know, because you said you check out their work. Let's say they haven't worked with many models yet.
Um, I would say if you were a new photographer and you want to build, you should probably take pictures of your friends, people that you know who would feel comfortable letting you do that. Because to me, it doesn't matter if you have a bunch of shoots with the same few people, as long as I see that you have a style. I can see what type of concepts like to shoot, and then I'll see because I'm always willing to help and give pointers if you're new. But that is the quickest way and easiest way to build a portfolio because we don't know if these people are professional models or not. So they can just be your friends. All we see is just the work. So I think do that to build. And then once you have at least, you know, anywhere between 3 to 5 models that you work with or friends that you work with that you shoot maybe a couple times each, then that's enough. Cause then, it shows that you are, because to me as a model, that looks like, oh, these people shoot with this photographer multiple times. So, okay, they keep coming back. I don't know who is your friend and who's a model. So all I see is just different shoots. So I would think that would be the easiest, most inexpensive way to build a portfolio before you want to reach out with to models and things.
And when you do a shoot with a photographer, who usually comes up with the concepts for your shoots? Is it usually you or the photographer or more of a collaboration?
A lot of the times it is a collaboration because I do work with a lot now it's a more of a collaborative thing because I work with a lot of the same people, so we kinda just know we get the vision, but then there's a lot of times where I have an idea and I tell a photographer, "Do they wanna shoot this idea?" And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome," or they'll approach me and be like, "This idea inspired me and made me think of you. Would you ever wanna shoot this idea?" And I would be like, "Yeah, I see your vision board that you sent me. I'm gonna do it in my interpretation because I'm the one who has to pick it out of my wardrobe and do my own makeup and stuff." So honestly, I like when I get to hop on other people's projects because then that gives me less thinking. I can just follow the directions and be like, yeah, I'll understand the assignment.
So so it might actually be if someone is a photographer wanting to reach out to a model, it could actually be beneficial to say like, "Hey, I have this idea, this concept, and I feel like you would really work well with it.
Yeah.
What do you think?"
Yeah.
Rather than
Especially
just,
if a model
"Will you
really
do
loves the
pictures with me?"
idea and you're if it's really, really cool, a lot of the times a model will be excited. They'd be like, uh you're gonna shoot these photos of me for free? Wow, like, I thought I'd have to pay you to shoot these photos of me. Yeah, like, yeah,
And
you
that
never
brings up
know.
another question about paying. Like when we've worked together, it's been on a TFP or trade for
Yeah.
prints, I guess is what that stands for, but where no money changes hands. But when you work with photographers, is that usually what you do, or do you ever pay photographers or photographers ever pay you for shoots?
Um, I feel like a majority of my shoots are, um, TFP shoots, but there are shoots where I pay the photographer because I like their style and they have cool concepts that I wanna see myself photographed like that. Especially if, cause like, especially if they build their own set and have their own theme and they're just, "Oh, this set is available for this slot between this slot." I'm right there if I have to pay for it. But, yeah, I think I can count on one hand how many times, like, a photographer's paid me. No, I think, I don't make money from doing photo shoots for photographers. If I'm getting paid for a photo shoot, it's for promotion or it's something else, but it isn't just like a photographer hitting me up and saying, "Oh, let's shoot. I will pay you."
So now I kind of want to come back to some of the issues that you raised a little bit ago. And one of the things that I've found so refreshing and powerful about your social media posts is your willingness to talk openly about things that so often get pushed under the rug and not talked about in public. And on that tip, I think it would be really helpful for photographers to, if you're willing to share, to hear about some negative experiences you've had or that you've heard other models tell you about that they've had with photographers. And that could be anything from you do a photo shoot with a photographer and then they ghost you and you never get your prints, or it takes months or whatever to get them, or things like uh, either racist or creepy, misogynist or homophobic behaviors. Like, would you be willing to get into maybe some experiences, negative experiences with photographers that would be helpful for photographers to know? Don't be like this.
Oh, yeah, there have been a lot of creepy photographers, like, especially in my earlier days. I I didn't know any of the red flags because I didn't know any models before me. I was doing it, and I didn't have any friends who were modeling. It was just me going by myself to all of my shoots, and when I was in my early 20s, I did not know a lot of things. Even being told not to bring anybody because that's a distraction, when I would ask if I could bring someone with me to the shoot because I'm nervous, or them taking photos when I'm changing, they would take photos that I didn't know about. And there's been worse. I've also had photographers edit my skin to super light so that I don't look black because they didn't like dark skin, and then I can't use the photos because it doesn't look like me, so it's not going in my portfolio. It's it's been a lot of photographers don't really respect models because they don't really see us as people with ideas and feelings and thoughts. We are just dolls that they can play with and tell what to do in front of their camera. And yeah, so when you find good photographers, you just want to stick with them. You don't really want to experience a lot of those kind of behaviors. So that's why I mentioned earlier that I just work with the ones that I know.
And I think maybe newer photographers probably don't realize how common it is that models who are women or femmes have to deal with.
Every model has a story, more than a story. They have so many, and that's unacceptable. That's why I appreciate you even having this podcast and asking me to be on it, because a lot of the time photographers don't care about what the model has to say. We don't talk. We just look pretty and give them their fantasy.
And that's, so if you're a newer photographer and you're reaching out to models like, hey, would
Mhm.
you be willing to work with me on a shoot? And let's say you don't get a response or they say that they're not willing to do that, you might think like, oh, well, why is she being mean or like whatever? Why won't she work with me? You have to realize that models have had these kinds of experiences of mostly men being really predatory and using their camera as a way to get a woman in a room with them and then do fucked up things. And, um, so it's really important to be as principled as possible to never do a thing like Roxy was talking about. Now I'm going on a little rant. Sorry. Um,
No, I get it. I had to stop myself mentally and not going on a rant because off camera I could go on and on about, because some people, they don't know how long I've been doing this, so they just don't realize how over it I really am. So I get it.
And so like, for example, the point you made about if it's always important as a photographer to encourage models to bring somebody with them, to bring a friend or a family member, whoever with them and get them involved in the shoot. Like they can ask them to help hold a light stand, whatever, like
Exactly.
don't put, don't make models feel like you're trying to trap them in a place where they're not going to be safe.
Yeah, and give them a place where they can change. Some place where they can close the door behind them. Because so many times there will be some creep and they'll give a barely a privacy curtain or whatever, and they're like, you can just change here. And that's when they're snapping their photos. You need to have a bathroom or someplace, another room or something to go and do the change. If you see a sketchy place, if you're not coming there already in your outfit, don't fall for that either. So make sure wherever you're shooting your models, there's a place where they can feel a sense of privacy and they can close the door behind them or something.
So we both live in Minnesota. There's a lot of white people here, and in the photography and modeling communities, there's a lot of white photographers. And you look at a lot of photographers' Instagrams, and you just scroll through pages and pages of white
Yeah.
models. You
Yeah.
made reference to that earlier. And so, what are some of the things that go into your decisions about whether to work with a white photographer or even a black or non-white photographer who mostly photographs white models?
If you mostly photograph white models, I get it because this is Minnesota. But if you don't have any that you don't work with, or you only shoot them the once and that's it, that makes me suspicious because why aren't they coming back? Or why aren't you working with do you not have friends who want to get their picture taken? I don't get it. See, I don't get it. So I look at that, and I also look at how they shoot their models of color if they do shoot them, because but a lot of times people don't know how much their biases come out in front of the camera, then they don't realize, because if you shoot any people of color but you have biases about them, it's going to show in how you shoot them, even if you're trying to just shoot them professionally, because if you don't find them beautiful, you're not going to want to be as flattering, or you're just not going to be as creative, or it'll show in the photos. And a lot of times people don't notice that, but I notice when I shoot and I get the photos back and I can just tell that the photographer has weird feelings about me, or didn't feel comfortable shooting me, or didn't know how to shoot me, or like because they don't find dark skin beautiful, they don't know how to capture the beauty because they just are just snapping pictures because they're just like, well, whatever. I don't know what looks good because it doesn't look good to me. You can tell, like, we can tell.
So you made reference before to photographers editing your photos, like brightening your skin to make it so you don't even look black.
Yeah.
I remember you posted some of those photos at one point.
They were
Can you say
hideous.
maybe can you maybe say a little bit more about those kinds of experiences and what you'd tell photographers about how to photograph and edit pictures of black or darker skinned models?
Well, I would I had times where they would take photos of me, and they would use their just high contrast, high exposure, and flash, and they just do whatever they can to drain all the color out, and it makes me look orange, and then they go in and editing, and then they do whatever they do with it, and it's disgusting because they don't want to use natural light or golden hour or really vibrant color lights like blues and reds, and they just kind of want to wash you out. It's a lot. It's a lot because having my photos whitewashed like that, when I'm expecting to look like me in a photo and then I get them back and I'm just like, who is this lady? That's not me. And I can't use it. Then, because I was excited about the photos because I love my outfit, I did my makeup, whatever, and then I get it back, I can't even use it. What do they think is gonna I never understood what happened up there psychologically, 'cause do they think I'm gonna use the photo? Do you think I'm gonna put this as my profile picture, tell everybody this is me? They're supposed to believe me? Like, it's it feels insulting because it just makes me feel like I don't know, it's very insulting, that to say the least. Because if you didn't wanna shoot me, or if you don't wanna shoot dark models, then don't agree to shoot with me. Don't waste my time and don't waste your time, because I'm not gonna use them, you're not gonna use them, and now we both got our time wasted. So, like, I would have rather you said nothing or not shot with me at all than waste my time, because nothing makes me more upset than getting my time wasted, because not only is racism obnoxious, it wastes a lot of time. A lot of valuable time on both my end and the racist's end. Just yeah.
So that's something that I think, just like when you're learning photography and studying how to do portraits, how to do photos of white models, if that's the norm of what you've learned and studied on and practiced with, you got to do the work and study and learn and practice and how to take good pictures of people who are black or with darker skin. It's not going to be exactly the same as you would do with a lighter skin or a white model. So it,
And it's okay to play around with your camera settings, because cameras are usually meant to capture and balance to white balance. They're not really factoring in dark skin. So you're gonna have to tamper with your camera when you're shooting someone with darker skin. You can't just shoot it as it is because that's not even how the default settings are set. They don't have us in mind. When we say racism everywhere, it's everywhere, even in the cameras. And I'm not trying to say that in a tinfoil hat kind of way. It's true. If you're with a darker model, you have to tamper with the camera settings and just see what works. It's okay to snap some and see if it's too much or too it's okay, but it's better to take 20 minutes trying to find the right camera setting at a shoot than waste everybody's time because I would rather have great photos in the end. I get it. A lot of models are artists and we understand sometimes it takes a longer time than expected to get the shot, but we're gonna get the shot. Like, so yeah, play with the camera settings, play with the lighting and see if it's what best shows off and enhances. If you have to change the background setting to make the person's skin pop more, then change the background because sometimes the color behind you can wash you out. Just play around with some things, and models don't mind because we all want good photos. So, but yeah, please look at your camera.
I think that's really good advice because I know, speaking for myself, when I first started working with models, you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. So you don't want to be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to change all the settings and they're going to think I'm incompetent and don't know what I'm doing. So instead, you just take pictures without doing that. And it is better to pause, play with the settings, get it right, rather than just trying to pretend you know what you're doing and you got it right when you don't.
Yeah, because if a photographer doesn't look like they know what they're doing, that's fine. Look, it doesn't matter. We're not just gonna be like, "Oh my god, how dare they try to find their lighting and find their camera settings." That's kind of expected, so if it takes a while, it takes a while. We get it. We're used to the
Yeah.
idea of knowing you're gonna have to, like, dim the lights or brighten them or put them behind or put them more in front. It's part of the process, so it's okay to
And
look like
that's
you don't know
also,
what you're
I
doing.
think, and that's a good point too, that like you talked about at the beginning, also that you and your sibling would do photos of each other when you were younger. A lot of models also do photography and understand the basic principles of photography and of what good lighting and probably know better probably than most photographers what good lighting is. And
We may not know
so
the
it's always
fancy
you can
terms, we may not know the right camera setting terms, but we know the vision. We know what looks
you
right
know good
and what
light when you see
doesn't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while this podcast is mainly aimed at photographers, since we're talking about models and modeling today, maybe some people who are models or who are thinking about getting into modeling might be listening or watching too. So just curious if you would want to give any advice for up and coming Black models or people who are more alt models who are coming up. Like, what are some things that you would advise for advancing their careers and things that they should think about when working with photographers, if there are things you haven't mentioned already?
When it comes to alternative models of any race, a lot of times the photographers who are not worth they're gonna ask you, "Oh, can I take your photos for suicide girls?" It's always suicide girls. I mean, now it's recently OF, but a lot of people is try to lure alternative girls in specifically by saying, "I could take your pictures for suicide girls. I can get you in." Don't. And also, when it comes to being an alternative model, if you do not want to do any type of fetish modeling or nude modeling, you don't have to do that. People act as though alternative is a porn category, and it's not. It's a subculture. And there are photographers who believe that too, because they don't know anything about alternative subculture. They just see tattooed alternative women as a fetish. So they don't even understand that there's more to that. And if you want to be a whimsical, artsy model and you don't want to do that type of modeling. You don't have to do that, and that's not what it takes to make it, because you can make it within your own niche. So there's that. And even if you are a person who's interested in doing fetish modeling, there still needs to be a level of decorum that you are allowed to demand on set. And just because you are doing a type of content that is not, you know, conservative, you don't need to be touched on set. The photographer doesn't need to adjust anything himself. You can fix it yourself. Um, y- no inappropriate touching, no extra photos. And just because, oh, well, it's this type of content, it's explicit content, or it's whatever, OF content or whatever, that doesn't give the photographer any excuse. You are there to do one thing, and that's work, and shoot your content for work. So you are allowed to have standards, you're allowed to have boundaries, and you're allowed to say no to things, even if that is your line of work. Because sometimes people do get lost in saying, "Oh, well, I'm a fashion model. I'm a this type of. I'm an artsy model. I don't deserve that type of treatment." But neither do the OF models or the suicide girls or those kind of like anything like that either. So you have rights. You can stand on them. And when it comes to being a Black model, you are allowed to say you do not need to be in rooms that don't want you in there. And you don't have to tolerate disrespect. And you don't have to deal with, if you, because there's times you will notice that other models are getting paid for the shoot and you're not. Or they have you standing in the back, or you're the only one who doesn't get their photos back. You don't have to put up with that. And you are allowed to say something about it. And being angry it's okay to be angry. A lot of the times Black models don't want to be angry because that's a stereotype, and they want to prove that they're not angry. But you know what? Be angry, because sometimes you deserve to be angry. So yeah, do that. And also, if you're in the Minnesota area, do not work with the photographer David Kenyon. He's a creep. He's been outed, and he has a thing for Black women and Black models and underage models. Do not ever work with him. He works out of, I think, St. Cloud, Sartell area. I don't know. Wherever. He comes out to the Twin Cities too. Don't work with him either. He has a thing for Black models, African models. Don't do it. That's it.
There are Facebook groups that bring together photographers and models that might ask for people to work together, and often there will be notifications on some of those groups about photographers who have done unacceptable things. You know,
Yep.
models will report that, and then
Yep.
the admins will share that information so models can stay safe. And so if you're just starting out, join some of those groups and look into photographers before you decide to work with them.
And there's no reason for you to be in a swimsuit when you are under the age of 18. I don't care if you're 16 or 17. You don't need to be in a swimsuit. I don't care if it's your birthday photo shoot. There should be no grown adult who would shoot a minor like that. Just saying. And no photographer needs to be showing up at a 16-year-old's or 17-year-old's prom homecoming parties either, being the only adult around all those minors and just taking photos. Looking at you, David Kenyon.
So how do I transition from that? So I'm going to transition to talk about Camp Buzzkill. So you mentioned
Yay,
at
Camp
the beginning,
Buzzkill! Things that
you
make me
started your own.
happy.
Yeah, let's go from bad shit to happy shit. So I don't know how many years ago, the last few years, you and your siblings started your own clothing brand, Camp Buzzkill. Can you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to do that, and a little bit about what the fashion is and how people can see and buy from Camp Buzzkill if they want to?
Well, Camp Buzzkill was initially started by my twin. It was initially their shop, London. Um, and I didn't hop on until the whole relaunch, because London had the shop on Depop, and it was more one of one grungy DIY, like upcycled clothing. And it was meant to cater to larger sizes, because it started off being the smallest size you could get was a large. It was large to 3X, I believe that's what it was when it first started. And then but that was during the pandemic, because Camp Buzzkill started as what it is in 2021, I believe. Yes. Um, then Camp Buzzkill had to go on a brief hiatus because London had to go back to work. And then, but the when Camp Buzzkill first started, I just promoted it because I was just like, "Oh my God, London has a shop. Of course I'm gonna support it. I'll support anything." And then but then afterwards I was telling London, I was like, "I miss the shop. I miss Camp Buzzkill. Like, when are you gonna bring it back?" It ended up coming back in 2023, I believe. And that's when I was a co-owner, and we expanded the size range to go from small to 5X, and that's how we do it now. And we just really wanted to be in our lane of an alternative clothing and jewelry shop that catered to the more grungy, over the top, maximalistic alternative style, because everything as you see is getting more and more subtle, and alternative brands just want everything to be plain and simple and clean. It's just like it no hate to that, but it's just not. London and I have always been very expressive with our fashion sense. We've always loved lots of accessories. We loved to jingle when we walked. It was just we needed to make a statement. And plus, there just wasn't that many Black alternative stores that were selling what we sell. Um, because there's a few Black owned alternative stores that have traction that are like way more successful, and we look up to them too, but they're more makeup geared or jewelry geared, and the clothing that they do sell is more um like skate clothing. And we just didn't see much of what we do in our lane, and we wanted to do that and bring that kind of style back from the 90s, early 2000s, when things were more expressive. There were more chains and more spikes and more safety pins and more of this and grungy splatters. It wasn't about being perfect, imperfect, everything. That's kind of the vision we were going for, and we wanted to be size inclusive with it too. And right now everything is just between me and London. But once we actually start making real money, then we can add more sizes. But we're doing what we can now.
And um, that brought to mind a question I probably should have asked, but didn't think of it till now. Just to people who are watching and not just listening can see you, but for those that can't, can you maybe describe your style a little bit? I know, I'll just say that seems like on social media you often joke about your colors, red and black,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. My style it's very inspired by goth styles, grunge styles of the 90s and early 2000s. And also a lot of it is my own personal take on those styles, because I don't follow the rules within each subculture. I do what I please. I mix things. I wear things in a way that a lot of the times people just can't really put their finger on, because I'll say my style's pretty alternative, and they're just like, "Yeah, but goths don't wear that, or that's not this, that's not that." And it's just like, I don't care, so it's a lot of chaos, but it is very much inspired by goth and grunge and different styles of alternative subcultures of the 90s, early 2000s, because that's kind of what I aspired to be when I was growing up. But by the time I was an adult and could be alternative, everything came about being so minimalistic that it drives me insane. And I was so excited to be an adult and just go all out with platform boots and everything. And now everything is just, oh, a solid black t-shirt with the smallest logo right here. So almost the color of the shirt, but it's like 3 shades lighter so you can kind of see it. And then now, if you're too much, it's just like, oh, you actually tried. You put effort into your outfit. Ew. Sorry. Sorry for wanting to be a little bit of a statement. Sorry for daring to intentionally bring attention to myself. I don't care. I don't care. I know it's not cool to admit that you put on an outfit and that you want to be seen, because I do. I'm not gonna pretend I don't. If I didn't want to be seen, I dress when I know how I dress when I don't want to be perceived. It's not this. Sometimes it's okay to admit that. That's what makes me go for it. Because I'm not trying to pretend I'm something I'm not. I admit that I want to be the loudest ornament and decorative art piece in the room. So I aspire to do that. And that's kind of what Camp Buzzkill is about too. That's how it leaks into me and London style, because we like to disrupt things with our fashion. That's the whole point. And now that everything's turning beige and just everything is beige, the color is drained out of everything. We gotta be the color in the world. We have to. There has to be some in-person living art pieces moving around. That's my rant.
One of the few phrases or lines I remember from the show Sex and the City back in the day was, I think, Mr. Big said, "Beige is bullshit." Or maybe Carrie said it. Anyway, that always sticks with me whenever beige comes up in a conversation.
Yeah, everything is turning
Uh,
beige. The architecture is all beige. Fashion is beige. Websites are all beige. Interior design, beige. Everything is beige. I can't take it. I cannot take it.
and really, what could be more punk than mixing and styles and trying different things and putting different things together? If people try and put it in a category like you have to only wear this with that or only dress this way, um,
Yeah,
that's a good person to
there's a
ignore.
lot of rules. Like, there's a lot of rules, and especially when you're not automatically pale, there's stricter rules for you. Because if I was pale, all I'd have to do is just put on a choker and a black tank top and be like, you know what, you guys, I'm goth. And they would be like, yes, queen. But if you have dark skin, you have to follow so many rules, be by the book, and have to know every band, every band's birthday and their star signs. You gotta be,
Name 3 songs
yeah,
by Pearl Jam.
who is the bassist uncle? What school did he go to? Like, you have to constantly be the best version of whatever you're trying to go for. And honestly, I don't care about being the best performer at doing something. I'm just going to break the rules, make everybody mad, and then have them go on their rants about I'm what's wrong with the scene and this is why they're just letting anybody in. Yeah, they are.
Where can people find your work online and reach out if they want to reach out to you?
You can find me on anything at It's Roxy Vail. That's me on everything: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Red Note. No, everything is the same. Or you can find,
Yeah, Red Note.
yeah, the shop at Camp Buzzkill. That's everything that's the same too. So if you know one, you know them all.
Awesome. I just thought of one more question too. For photographers, it's a sort of an ongoing question of what the best platform is or what the best platforms are for sharing your photography, for getting it out there. And it changes, right? But as a model, what platform or platforms in 2026 work best for you?
um, Honestly, it's about being visible everywhere. You have to be on multiple social media sites at all time. You have to not just be whatever it is that you do, whether you're a business owner, a photographer, a model, you have to be a content creator, unfortunately. So you're going to have to figure out how to do blogs, how to be funny, how to be a personality, because you have to make trendy videos, but also relevant videos to your brand. And it sucks because a lot of the times artists can't just do their craft. You have to be a social media, you can't act like you're above it, because if you want your business to go out, you have to do the corny videos. You have to make the corny post. You have to do the shameless self-promotion. You have to be willing to be everywhere and constantly reposting the same stuff, repeating yourself constantly on different platforms. So as long as you're on the main ones, because a lot of the times people will rag on people for having Facebook and Instagram because we've all moved on, but that's where people are, and that's where people who spend money are. unfortunately. Yeah, the funny people are on different apps, but the ones who are spending money on the internet usually are on those websites. And any websites where any like apps or anything like that where you can share photos and it stays and it's not just dependent on a 24-hour, because a lot of times posts will may not do well initially when you post them, but over time they accumulate, and then there might be some random person who shares it that makes it get a lot more. So that's why, even though I hate Facebook, I've stayed on Facebook because there are times where I'll have photos up for years and they just collect likes or posts or shares, and no other place really does that. But like you have to be on all of them and you have to be posting on all of them.
Yeah, and that really resonates with me, everything you just said, because for so long I've resisted getting on TikTok and doing behind the scenes and
Yeah.
doing reels. I just wanted to post my photos. I want to share my photos. I don't want to put music to it. I don't want to put it in a reel, but that's kind of what you have to do
I
now.
know. It's like walking with your tail between your legs. Like I don't every time I have to set my tripod up and film and record a TikTok or something, a piece of me is like, "Oh, I'm a full-grown adult, okay? But here I go." But you know, you have to do it. Like, you have to do it. It's okay to you have to release yourself from the cringe. It's okay. You just gotta do it, because where else are you gonna find? Because that's where people are doom scrolling, and that's where they're gonna find it, is when they're doom scrolling. People very rarely are just seeking out art. They have to stumble upon it, upon their trance, and you have to find ways to find them.
I'm working on something to talk about that, about where photographers should be in this day and age online. And yeah, you basically have to be on Instagram and TikTok, and if you're
Yeah.
on Instagram, you may as well be on Facebook because it'll automatically post there too. And
Yeah.
but if you just want pure photography, just sharing your full resolution photos, there still is like Flickr and some other photography sites for that, and that's great for sharing with other photographers, but you're not going to get a mass audience there of people who aren't photographers. So you kind of have to do that too, you know.
Yeah, because a
Um,
lot of the times you have to reach people who are gonna be fans instead of reaching out just to only other creatives. That's why you have to be on those other like other apps, because like a lot of the people who are reaching out to you to shoot are people who just want birthday photos or who just want these things. They aren't models, but those are the ones who are going to pay you money. So like,
exactly.
you know, you're going to have to just swallow the pride and just do it. Because reaching out, don't only staying on our on networking with other artists. Yeah, that's cool collaboratively, but
But a bunch of starving artists aren't going to
every
get
artist is
anyone.
broke. All artists are broke. We are on a trade and barter system. Okay, if you want to actually, if you don't want to work a day job and you want to do photography full time, you got to reach out. You got to find ways to be seen by the commoners.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for taking this time to talk about your perspective as a model working with photographers. I think you've shared a lot of really useful information that hopefully photographers can learn from, and maybe some models and up and coming models too. And I hope that if you've listened this far, that you give a follow or a like or a share for uh, Get the Picture podcast on all the platforms, and go and follow Roxy Vail right now on all the platforms.
Yay, follow
And
me and Camp Buzzkill.
Camp Buzzkill, yes.
Yeah, get on our
And
website. It's campbuzzkill.bigcartel.com, and it's linked in my bio, London's bio, and all of our shop pages, their bios. So, yeah.
yeah, don't just shop at Amazon or the big box stores. Support small, awesome independent artists. And
And if you're in Minneapolis, we have some pieces at Love Token
okay.
that's being sold. But if you want the full range of our things and with the full sizes and multiple all the designs, then the website.
All right.